Well, the other thing too that you help a lot with is our service contracts. Now, I want to be very clear. This job taught me a lot about, well, this industry taught me a lot about the importance of. There are two different types, and I want to be clear. Any car I've bought, I'm not buying a protection plan. I'll explain why in a second. But any boat, I'm not buying a protection plan. RVs are a different animal, and so to start, there are two different types of protection plans. You have a stated component and an exclusionary. I want you to kind of dive in there, but
can we start with what a factory warranty covers?
Yeah. Well, and
then go into that.
That's what I was getting, because they're so limited. And in this industry, other than like cars, we don't have an O'Reilly's and an AutoZone and a Napa to get these parts from. That's why the manufacturer recommends that you buy locally, but you buy from the place that is most local to you. But that's not fair for the guy in Colorado that's got to spend $10,000 more on a Rockwood than what I can sell it to him for. So, but it is very clear, the only dealership that is contractually obligated to service that RV is the place you buy it from. So these plans, these additional items are more important in this purchase than of anything that most people will deal with outside of that. That's why I try to be so delicate, because I know inside I'm the guy that would never buy one. But I mean, when you see the things that the manufacturer does not cover, when you see the issues that people have on a brand new RV and the manufacturers, no, I'm sorry, that's your fault, or you used your left hand and not your right hand, so that's on. So can you dive into the difference? Let's start there of the well, and yes, so start with manufacturer warranty, the two differences of the stated component and the exclusionary, and which one that we offer and why.
Right. So, I mean, the biggest thing to know about, and you had said, and I talked to a lot of customers like yourself and other people out there that say, I just don't buy service contracts. You know, and that's a fair statement in a lot of situations. It really is.
Or I can do the work.
Correct. You hear that a lot. You really do. And again, fair statement on its face value. But once you start digging in a little deeper, I think what I've found out over the years, and obviously I'm a little biased on this, but what I found out is it depends on the product that you're buying. If you go into it with that thought, then I think you end up better than most people that either say I always buy them or I don't always buy them. Because nothing makes sense to just always do or not always do outside of a couple things in this world. But so the biggest thing to understand about the product that you're buying, okay, is you go in and you look and you say, and you guys know this, I mean, how many different manufacturers come up with this camper? Okay, I mean, you look at it, it's a Forest River product, I think it is. Yeah, Forest River. But Forest River made the shell. They made the structure. I mean, you have Furrion, you got Dometic, you got Atwood, you got Suburban, you got all these different manufacturers that kind of make this hodgepodge Frankenstein machine, if you will. That's why I think is the number one reason why people with campers buy service contracts, and they do sell. Service contracts sell a lot more in the RV industry for that fact. I think the general public is getting a little smarter when it comes to that.
Or they had to learn the hard way.
Yeah, which we don't wish on anybody, obviously. But
of course.
Yeah, the biggest thing is if you own a camper, this is one thing that kind of shocks. I know you both said it to your customers is, listen, if you own a camper and you think you're never going to have an issue, think again. Just think again. I mean, because you take your house, you strap it to a set of axles, you drive it down the road.
It's going to break.
What's going to happen?
It's not going to look the same as what it
did. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So I think that's understanding the product that you're buying is the first kind of test to, am I open to a service contract? Okay. So the main difference between the two service contracts, which you can take this really to any industry, cars, houses, whatever it may be, is the difference in the type of service contract that is. You have exclusionary and you have stated, as you so put there. So we'll start with stated. So a stated component coverage is what a lot of places sell, I mean, honestly. And reason being is at face value, it doesn't appear much different than an exclusionary if it's not really looked into or you don't really understand it. A stated component coverage is saying, okay, I'm going to cover A, B, C, X, Y, and Z. Okay, but that's what I'm covering.
Well, and let's take the appliances, for example. It covers the air conditioner, it covers the refrigerator, covers the water heater, it covers all the major appliances. What I've noticed is That real fine print, it covers 40 of the 72 items that it takes to make an air conditioner.
Right.
Those 40 will never break.
Right.
They're literally like a fixed item that is not a rotary piece that it will not break, right? I mean, there just seems to be so much, but I mean, nowadays we just click the next button or we just accept to terms and conditions and we don't read them.
We don't read, right.
It's kind of a catch-22, but yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, and the biggest thing too with stated component coverage is, and you had a great example, if you have something where an inverter shorts out and the inverter's covered but the fridge isn't, but the inverter caused the fridge to fail, well, guess what? You're going to get a $150 inverter, but who pays for my $4,000 fridge, right? So, and this is where customers get sour on service contracts. They tell me, hey, I'm not buying one because I got burnt this one time. And 99% of those times they bought a stated component coverage after I asked them a few questions to figure it out.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing. There's a lot of loopholes and catches and things like that. And that's what people know service contracts to be, to be very honest with you. Now, the difference in what we actually sell is an exclusionary coverage. Okay? There's a million different companies out there that offer exclusionary coverages, but there's a lot of dealers out there that don't sell them. Okay, exclusionary coverage is a little more ironclad. Okay, in the fact that it's going to say, I'm going to cover everything electrical and mechanical on this coach outside of what's in my exclusions list. And the exclusions list, depending on the product that you're buying, it can be big, it can be small. Ours is very small when it comes to what's not covered. When you have, say, again, it's going to cover your brakes. Okay, it's a mechanical, it's an electrical item, it's going to cover your brakes. What's in that exclusions list? Your brake pads. Sure. Okay, and that's we can all sit here. Right. We can all sit here and say, oh, that's obvious, but it's worth talking about, and that's some of the stuff we try to do. So, exclusionary coverage is by nature going to cover more, just because of the nature of how the coverage is written. If it says, hey, I'm going to cover everything, well, that's a big blanket outside of A, B, C, X, Y, Z.
See, in if you remember, one of my customers found that blanket can be a loophole their direction because it didn't say that it doesn't cover towing for them, and they were able to have their stuff towed off a permanent site to our location to get fixed.
Right, which I didn't even know was covered at that point until I found out.
Exactly. So exclusionaries are beneficial to the customer. Absolutely. They can use it to their advantage.
Well, it's honestly easier to talk about with the customer too. I mean, we talk to customers all the time, and I mean, one of the big things that a customer says is they're just waiting for the shoe to drop, man. They're just waiting for, because they dealt with so many rough dealers out there that are unfortunately trying to just get in their pocket and that's it. And we take the hard way around sometimes. I mean, you boys know it. I mean,
and you said that exactly right, because a let's just say the cost difference between a stated component and exclusionary coverage, they're not the same.
No.
And to try to explain the benefits and then to go through with price, I mean, it's not the same. But you had mentioned something just a second ago with, I've had a rough experience. I dealt with a shady dealer. Their protection plan didn't cover what they said it would. Right. Well, it was $1,900 for an $80,000 coach. I'm sorry, but there is some fine print in there, and my personal belief is that the dealers just offer that to get more money out of your pocket.
Sure.
Where I'm very clear in at least telling my customers, listen, I'm not trying to get deeper in your pocket. What I cannot afford or allow to happen to my customer is you call me in 6 months and you had a Frisbee on the slide and you're rolling it in and now you got a water leak and you find out that seal is punctured. Right. Because then I got to tell you, I can't do anything for you, because that's one of the 3 things on all RVs that aren't covered by day one, right? So if for those that don't know, but I can't have that difficult conversation. Sure. I'd rather it be difficult trying to explain why you need something versus literally 6 months and I have to say, I can't do anything for you. Yeah. Are you ever going to buy another product from me again? Are you ever going to send me your friends and family? Right. So we do take the harder way, but we're simply trying to offer something that has value and that the customer can use when and if they are faced with that situation. I think that's the honorable way to go, even though it is a much harder way of doing it.
So that brings me to a question, or to a question point, I guess would be the way to put it. Because I just started selling capers 2.5 years ago, right? Josh, you've been working on them since you were, what, 10? Yeah. Slide seals. The factory warranty, that when I sat down and read it, it's not covered. But service contracts do, at least the one we sell does.
Yeah.
I'm like you. I've never bought a service contract to save my life, but I will always tell a customer if you don't buy it and something goes wrong with those slide seals, I've taken pictures and sent it to a customer. They remove, I don't know if you guys can see this, the entire slide out of the side of the camper to replace that.
There's 3 seals. You have the one you can see on the outside, one you can see on the inside, but that middle one, if and when it ever be punctured, which all it would take is a stick, that entire slide out comes off of the coach, sits on a dolly, and gets wheeled over so they can get to the piece that rubber track is, or the track that the rubber is in. The labor alone
Covers the service contract.
probably 2 of them. I've done enough in my time to see, because then you're talking about a rotted floor, sidewall, the parts that are ordered, but the labor alone is astronomical, and the rates have only it's been 7 years since I've been in the service department. Our rates have only raised dramatically since. You're not doing yourself any favors. So, and that's why I always kind of preface my customers, please just hear what he has to say. I'm not trying to get deeper in your pockets. What I'm trying to do is save you from
Your house.
the experience that I've seen so many have to go through and see the hard way. But anyway, yeah, I try not to focus on like how we're great. Believe me, guys, we're not perfect, but there's just things that we do differently that we see too many other people having a bad experience from by other places in which we compete with, or just simply hearing about, and we just try to inform of what the differences are, what kind of makes us who we are, or how we stand out ahead of those other people, and how we keep customers coming back to us. That's always my hidden agenda.
Right.
We don't make a killing on these campers. One guy, he noticed that we still have gravel outside. He says, "You got enough potholes?" Potholes are why you're here, brother. That same camper was 12 grand where you came from. Potholes are why you're here. What are you talking about? So we're not the prettiest, we're not the most perfect, but there's just things that we do so much differently, because you don't need concrete to sell campers. I don't need 150 locations with marble floors to sell campers cheaper than what we do here. It's actually the complete opposite, but just things that we want to shed light on that help you guys in your purchase, because at the end of the day, we can't sell them all. And we know that not everyone's going to be willing to travel to where we are or allow us to ship something. There's just, we're not going to sell every camper. So this is our way of helping everybody else out that we can't, or again, the people that do want to, great. But there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of greed out there. And yeah, so what else, guys? Anything else need to cover?
I don't think so. I think we covered pretty much what we were discussing.
The
there.
important
I think
stuff.
A lot of good information for everybody.
Important stuff.
Send some more people to watch the video so we can upgrade to a real fire.
Yep.
My hands
that's
are
on the
cold.
list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting cold doing this. Well, guys, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.